Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for welcoming me today and letting me join you just briefly. I'll give you a very quick background of our office and talk a little bit about the work that we do. Um, there was new legislation created and signed into law in early 2022 that created the Youth and Family Ombudsman Office. We've never had anything like this in the state of Ohio before. We've had ombudsman before, but never a youth ombudsman who was dedicated to hearing from foster youth across Ohio. So, brand new concept, brand new office. I had the honor and pleasure of being appointed by Governor DeWine as Ohio's first youth ombudsman. And so, it's really a personal privilege and a professional honor to be able to serve Ohio and to serve foster youth in this role. We have a small but mighty team that serves the entire state of Ohio. I am one of many members of our team who has lived experiences within Ohio's child welfare system. I myself was adopted from Ohio's foster care system. I've also adopted a child from Ohio's foster care system and worked in a variety of settings, including an investigative child protection pathway, a courtroom advocacy pathway, and then now here I find myself in this role with the state. So I'm going to start off by just introducing to you the Foster Youth Bill of Rights. I hope that this is a refresher for many of you and that you're already familiar. The Foster Youth Bill of Rights was signed into Ohio Administrative Code just a few months before my office was created. So I've put a QR code there. I hope that you'll check that out and learn more about the Foster Youth Bill of Rights. I'll also make sure that I drop our website in the chat. We have lots of information about the Foster Youth Bill of Rights on our website as well, and how you as a service provider might put those into action or might consider those when you're looking at situations involving foster youth. So the Foster Youth Bill of Rights essentially maps out our expectations as a system for how foster youth are treated and taken care of during their time in substitute care. It addresses things like self-determination, the right to be included and their viewpoint to be considered in decisions that impact their lives. It has to do with their basic care, things like privacy, access to kind of those normalcy activities that we hear so much about, appropriate extracurriculars, forming friendships, maintaining important familial connections, having access to appropriate services that meet their needs. So either youth or adults who care about youth might be reaching out to us to talk about these Foster Youth Bill of Rights issues. Also in Ohio, every older child, every teen who enters foster care should be receiving a copy of the Foster Youth Bill of Rights. When we think about how to do the best work for all of Ohio's foster youth, there are several thousand children in foster care in Ohio in any given day. So how can we meet all of their needs? And we're looking at that from a two-pronged perspective. One is just making sure that youth and the people around them, the people that support them, know what their rights are, and then know that they are empowered and have access to people like me or others in their communities when they have concerns about what's happening or they have concerns about their rights. So one question I get a lot is, well, who can file a complaint with the youth ombudsman? Who can reach out to you? Who can raise these concerns to you? And the answer is pretty much anyone. So we could have the youth themselves. We certainly receive a lot of complaints that come directly from youth. They're the ones submitting the form or calling us. Other times it might be various service providers. I think about folks in those kind of helping fields. So looking for the helpers that are on that youth's team. They might be the ones that get us involved. Other times it might be their caseworker. It might be a CASA, an attorney, or maybe even their foster parent or their resource caregiver, a kinship caregiver. The complaints might be related to the Children's Services Agency that's involved. They might be related to their placement agency. So if they're placed in a foster home, the youth's complaint or concerns might be about the placement. It might be about how decisions are being made. We also receive complaints involving non-custodial agencies like private therapeutic foster care networks, group homes, residential treatment centers. So kind of across the system of care and the continuum of placements, going from least restrictive placements all the way up to some of those more restrictive placements. And I briefly want to talk about kind of the life of a complaint. And this is a really quick overview to give you kind of a flavor of this. We really strive to be accessible to young people, to really be available to them. If a young person calls our office or reaches out, they're going to be talking to a staff person right away. And then likely they're going to be transferred either to me or to the assistant youth ombudsman. And there are times even where a service provider or a caseworker might call me up and say, Johnny, this young person I think has a complaint. They really want to submit it themselves, but they're in a restricted setting. They don't have access to a computer. They can't talk on the phone privately. What can we do? Well, I can get in my car and drive to them and hear their concerns directly from them and kind of come up with a game plan of what we're going to do. We, of course, right away are looking for scope. We're looking for us to establish jurisdiction to determine if this even is something that we can get involved in. And if we can't, we have people on our team who meaningfully connect that young person with the appropriate resource, or that complainant, that adult complainant, with the right resources to help that youth. And then I often to say that I have kind of two lanes that our youth complaints fall into. One I describe as kind of facilitation and advocacy. And that's where we've got a problem to solve and we've got to solve it quickly. And it's going to slow us down if we're focused on the more traditional investigative parts, like who did it, whose fault was it, all of those things. What's corrective action look like? When really it's just, I say, getting the right people at the right table with the right information to make good decisions and move forward. So that might mean me using my influence and the position that I have in order to connect to the right people at the state level to make sure that if it's a simple technical glitch, if it's a communication issue, if it's an issue of information sharing, can we problem solve that behind the scenes in order to move things forward more quickly for this young person or this young adult? So I do a lot of that, just kind of connecting the dots, opening up conversation. Sometimes when I get involved, it can motivate dialogue, right? I can ask some questions and then that brings people together to have meaningful conversation and be able to move those things forward in a really productive way. And if that's the role that I fill, that's wonderful. If I can help youth problem solve on their own and kind of walk alongside them as they're advocating for themselves, that's such an honor for me to be able to be in that position and be able to do that with young people. And then, that's kind of that facilitation advocacy lane that we sit in sometimes. And then the other lane that we occupy is more traditionally what you think of when you hear the word ombudsman. It's the investigation. It's I'm looking at a grievance, I'm looking at a complaint, and I'm actively investigating. I'm reviewing confidential records. I might be interviewing witnesses. I might be interviewing casework staff, agency staff. If it's involves a residential treatment center or a group home, I might be interviewing staff there or even interviewing other residents there to understand what's going on. And then kind of determining, what's happened. Was there potentially a violation of the Foster Youth Bill of Rights? What might some effective course correction be? Is there a way to remedy or a way to resolve this? Do I need to pull in other authorities, for example, licensing authorities? Or is it something where maybe there's an abuse or neglect issue going on and I need to pull in child protection folks or law enforcement folks? So we are, the one good thing about being as small as we are right now is that we can be really nimble and be really responsive and flexible in the way that we're working to resolve these complaints. Every step of the way, we're communicating with the young person, right down to, what are their fears of retaliation? Are they worried about blowback if they were to submit this complaint? That might change our strategy as we move forward. We're talking with them every step of the way about what to expect, or sometimes managing their expectations, having real conversations with them about the realities of their situation and what may or may not be possible through the complaint process with us. So, and at the end, we're really looking to move things forward in a productive way. We're not here to micromanage a children's services case from afar. We can't intervene in a pending court case and tell anyone what to do. We're really examining things for adherence to policy. We're looking at looking at it from a foster youth bill of rights lens, and we're looking at it from a best practice standard. And if we can have meaningful dialogue with those various parties that are involved, that's what we hope to do. And then, of course, we're also looking at this from the big picture of what's happening across the entire state of Ohio. Are we seeing themes? Are we seeing patterns? Are we seeing spaces where we need to call attention to certain issues, whether that's workforce development issues, whether that's policy issues, whether that's continuum of care issues? So, our report, we submit an annual report every year to the governor, to various legislators, and also, very interestingly, to the Youth Advisory Board, who then evaluate our report. Within that annual report, our very first report is available on our website if you'd like to check that out. But we offer recommendations about how to improve the entire system and strengthen the entire system based on what we're seeing through our work. The other question I get asked a lot is, well, how's it going? Like, how busy are we? What's happening? So here you can see in the brief 17 months or so that we have been operating, we have resolved 314 youth complaints. You can see there, on the youth side of the office, we have covered most of Ohio. The counties that are shaded in blue are places where we've had contact in some way with youth. I'll tell you, our entire office has resolved more than 1,000 family complaints, youth complaints, and general inquiries, covering almost the entire state. But today, since I'm talking specifically about the Youth Ombudsman team, here you can see the reach that we've been able to have with a pretty small team, and have been able to lean on various partners in order to be able to move things forward across many parts of the state. And then finally, as I'm wrapping up, because I know I'm coming to a close on my time with you today, I want to share with you just how to reach out to us. There's so much information on our website. We're working on adding even more resources for service providers and kind of those helpers who surround youth and are a part of their team. But you can submit a complaint directly on our website at any time. You, as an adult, as a service provider, as one of those helpers, one of those advocates, you could submit a complaint on behalf of youth or alongside the youth. You could help them submit that complaint or submit it on their behalf. Or youth can reach out to us directly. We staff that phone line during normal working business hours. We have a great team that's answering the phone and kind of guiding people through some of those early steps when they're not sure if they want to move forward with us, or they're just deciding, or maybe they need help connecting somewhere else. We have a great team that works on that phone line, and we pride ourselves on being really, really responsive. So far, we've been able to have a 24 business hour response rate to youth complainants who reach out to us. And most of the time, we are reconnecting with them in the same day that they might submit that complaint. And we're really proud of that. And obviously, at some point, we're going to continue to grow and get more and more complaints that I hope that we'll be able to maintain that same response rate. We're certainly striving for it. And then as I close today, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to come and talk to this group. Thank you so much. And just really working on getting the word out there. I think that we and our team is able to do a lot of really great things alongside youth and foster youth here in Ohio. And we're just really working hard to make sure that more people know about us and that youth know about us. And reaching this particular population of young people is very challenging because we know youth move around, right? They're moving from place to place, and they have different people coming in and out of their lives. So of course, we want youth to be able to reach out to us directly. But one thing we've learned over the course of this past year or so is that it's just as important for the people who help those youth, who interact with them on a regular basis, to know that we exist. That way, if there ever is, unfortunately, if there ever is a need, that you'll remember, hey, I think I talked to that youth ombudsman once. Let me find that website and get that youth in touch with us. Otherwise, thank you so much. I don't know if there's time for questions, but please never hesitate to reach out to me directly. And thank you again for having me.